welcome to Assembly Calendar. I'm Mike Friesen, and with us for our program today, Assemblyman Bob Oaks. Bob Oaks represents the 130th Assembly District, an Assembly District that includes the counties of Cayuga, Wayne, and Oswego. And we want to thank you folks all throughout the region for joining us for our program today. Bob Oaks, nice to see you.
Nice to see you, Mike.
Things have calmed down a little bit for you here at the state capitol. No more budget hearings every day, and all night. No more late night budget or sessions of the legislature where the budget's being debated and passed. The budget's passed. It's done. And now it's, I guess, time for you to take some deep breaths.
Well, there are always issues from that. You know, it's this year, because of some federal funding and one-time spending and whatever, we're looking at around $150 billion. And when you look across New York State, that's $7,500 for every man, woman, and child that the state is going to be spending this year.
Do we have a form to fill out where we can get that $7,500?
Well, let's just say...
Because I could use mine.
Understood. But I think when you look at the budget process, obviously it's never pretty. Obviously it's never totally satisfying. There's always relief to have it done. Of course, with this year, there were a number of things thrown into the budget by the governor that were pushed out of it. In the end, finally, disappointments that we didn't do some of the things we could have. I've said it many times before, no long-term mandate relief. We are helping government some. We have the tax cap. We have some relief using some of the money going for infrastructure projects and whatever. But none of that long-term that's really getting at the root cause of people seeing those tax bills just keep rising over the years. So in one sense, I think there's still questions, missed opportunities that we had within this budget this year. But again, as large as it is all-encompassing, the effort that goes into it, a lot of good that comes out of it. I just think it could have been a much better budget for New York State.
Now, I neglected to put out front for the people watching this program, I'm sure some of you probably already know this, but Bob Oaks is the ranking Republican on the Assembly's Ways and Means Committee, which is why he was so knee-deep in the process, in the committee portion of it, in the hearings portion of it, when the governor put his budget proposal out there. And then, of course, when it came time to debate that budget on the floor of the Assembly, you were the one leading that debate with the chairman of the Assembly's Ways and Means Committee, Assemblyman Denny Farrell. So you were very vested in it. You were the point man, if you will, for the Assembly's Minority Conference in terms of getting this budget through the process to completion. Let's take a look now at just what you were talking about, some of your opinions and concerns about where this budget falls short, maybe where it doesn't, some of your remarks that you made on the floor of the Assembly during that crucial debate, and then we'll come back. We'll talk more about what this budget means for you folks that are watching this program when we return with more Assembly Calendar.
This year, we stand with a budget where the resources appear to be there for this coming year. We are able to make some significant investments, it appears, in education from reports. We are doing some in the areas of infrastructure with some significant one-time dollars. But what we haven't done is provide some mandate relief that would give us an opportunity for those years when we don't have as many dollars coming in, an opportunity to hold back on some of the expenses, to hold back on some of the costs. My colleague, Mr. Murray, Leader Kolb, many others on this side of the aisle, and many on your side of the aisle, Mr. Speaker, have various proposals. We have a mandate relief commission that's never really reported and done and given us the ways for us to save dollars. So my hope is we see more here, or if we don't, my caution is just that we need to move forward in providing real mandate relief, one that helps our communities, our school districts, our local governments, and the state itself, so that in those years that we don't have significant resources coming in, we're able to actually control the costs and help provide relief to those governments and those residents that depend on us. Thank you very much.
So this year the state had billions of dollars that it wasn't expecting due to some legal settlements. That's good news for local governments because a lot of that money is going to go towards infrastructure uses, it being found money. It's only going to be there this 1 year. Right. So bridges, roads, I've heard broadband. I don't know the particulars of that, but that's going to be good. You're making the point, though, there hasn't been any of the long-term issues dealt with that's going to provide any kind of relief to communities, towns, villages, counties, where they're seeing their property taxes go up, up, and up.
Exactly. And Mike, the other piece with that, I think, that as we finish the budget, the governor has a lot of control of how the budget is proposed. It's his proposal. The legislature reacts to that. And so that is the process that we deal with. It seems to me, though, that with a lot of these one-time dollars, as well as other dollars, that the governor and his direct appointees, whether it's in the area of health care or transportation or economic development, they have an awful lot of control over where those monies are going to go. So the legislature is saying, yes, we'll spend them in those areas, but we have no idea where that money's going. Is that going to be all driven downstate? Is it going to be fairly and equitably distributed and meet the needs of upstate counties and communities? I don't know. And so I feel like there are billions and billions of dollars that the governor this year, and perhaps some of that money will spill into not being spent this year, but in future year, but it's being appropriated this year, is that we don't know where that money is going. And we have a lot of needs that we don't know. Are those bridges going to get done? Are those roads going to be helped, et cetera? And so as I leave this budget, that is the biggest question mark. And so we aren't going to know the answer to that really until we get through this legislative year.
That's interesting. And you said all that without saying the keywords, the most important keywords of them all, I would suspect, the things that really is in the back of your head. It's called Tappan Zee Bridge. I mean, that's a huge, huge bridge project that's taking place down in the metropolitan New York area, and it is expected that it is going to cost a lot of money to rehab that very important bridge.
Absolutely, and when you say a lot of money, it's in the $3.5 to $5 billion level just to replace that bridge, which is a part of the New York State Thruway system, and it's going to have an impact, obviously, on tolls, et cetera, on how much that costs, when it's done, et cetera.
$3.5 to $5 billion, pretty similar to that amount of legal settlement money that we just happen to be dealing with this year. It's going to be interesting to see then the results of that, like you say. Now, one of the things we talked about as the process was going on was that the governor this year, as you said, he proposes this budget, so he's got a lot to say about how it's shaped. He decided to link certain parts of the budget to policy issues, saying that, if the legislature goes ahead and does this, like I think they oughta, then this will happen. Kind of almost like a quid pro quo sort of thing, but
do it my way, and then you'll get the money.
And then you'll get what you want.
What you want.
Do what I want, you get what you want, kind of a thing. And one of the things he did that with was the education component of this budget in terms of the Common Core program. He wanted more testing of the students to evaluate their teachers. How'd that turn out? Did he get what he wanted? Did you get what you wanted?
The governor did not get exactly what he proposed, but the governor has tied funding to local districts with them following along to change that teacher review process. Some of it has been punted to the state education department, where they will make a final determination of how much of the testing will accrue to that review of the teachers. But I think overall, I'm not sure that a state budget is the place that we should be designing a teacher evaluation system. And so I was not happy that he put it in as a part of his proposal. I'm not really happy that it was a part of the final proposal. I think we've got, you know, education's the most important thing we do in this state. The public education system is not as good as it could be. And, you know, it's failing in certain places. It's succeeding in other places. But the reality is, if your kids or my kids are going there, people saying about failing, or you want it be good, encouraging, helpful, and send your kids on a trajectory where they're going to be successful in life, whether it's on to college, onto a job, have some skills, and go through. That's what we want to be doing. And it seems like we are once again, with the governor's influence and giving things to state education department, it seems like we want to make this best by the state telling you how that's going to happen, as opposed to saying, local communities, let's come together, let's figure this out, and let's lift it up
from the ground up.
From the ground up.
Yeah, and if you think about it, the Common Core program initiates from the federal government. The standards that are set in the program that is run by the state comes from the federal government. A lot of people have an even bigger issue with that.
Yes.
So what we're seeing now, and what's creating headlines across the state this week, are parents that seem to be getting that seem to not be as disengaged as might often be the case on what's going on in Albany or Washington. They seem to be picking up on this and understanding that the testing is maybe too much in their eyes, and they are opting out their students from taking some of this Common Core testing. It's an interesting phenomenon to watch, one that I don't ever recall seeing before.
It is fascinating, and I think it is a statement. You were talking about engaging parents and people. I think it is part of people claiming some of that at the local level. The question is, though, if it seems like in some kids' minds, or perhaps in some families, or some parents' minds even, it's opt out is, okay, I don't want anything to do. It's not opting out of education, folks, and it is, we want to be more engaging, but the question is, I think it's a reaction to how it's been done. And hopefully what this is pushback, which then the state tried to push something down, push back at the local level. Let's try to develop something in the end that's good for students, good for the future in New York State.
The one of the things I've heard on the bad side of the opting out is people saying, well, maybe though we're giving the kids a lesson that it's okay not to be engaged and not to take part in things, and to like run away from the problems.
When it's too hard, take off. That's not the message we want to be giving to families or students. And you take a 6th grade student or a 7th grade student who's in this, in their mind it's like, oh, I get out of a test perhaps. And that's not the message in the midst of all of this. We want rigor, we want success, and we want the best education system we can have.
In 30 seconds, can you give me anything about the ethics component of this? It's kind of a similar trajectory. The governor tied some things together policy-wise with the numbers in the budget. We started off this year with the charges against the Speaker of the Assembly for corruption. Is there anything new?
I think there's strengthening that's happened there. Whether it takes us to the point of really making Albany a place that operates within appropriate bounds, I think that's really yet to be determined. New York State deserves a legislature and a government that is setting an example as opposed to taking advantage, and unfortunately we've seen too much of that in New York State.
And I'll have to give you more time to do that, to talk about that in a future program, because we're done. Bob Oaks, thanks for joining us. Thank you folks too. We'll hope to see you soon for our next Assembly Calendar.